Welcome to episode 49 of Hockey Nights in Vegas. My name is Eddie Ribkin. I am joined as always by Joe Payne. And this episode, like all of our others, is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com. Anthony Curtis's Las Vegas Advisor is the place to go for anything and everything Las Vegas. Joe, it's been a while since we've done an episode. The last one was pretty historic with Paul Cotter. A lot of things have happened since we've been visiting with our viewers. The most important thing, okay, not the most important thing. Joe and I just got back from New York, where we proceeded to try to eat everything in the five boroughs.
Literally.
And Sinatra missed his father for a week, so he's been incredibly spongy since I got back. So he'll be here for about a minute. But hey, Joe, we went to New York. The food was excellent.
Hockey sucked.
The Golden Knights play, I'm going to go with not so much. They were 0, 1, and 2 against the New Jersey Devils, the New York Rangers, and the New York Islanders. They scored 5 goals.
5 goals in 4 games.
And that's pretty troubling, I think. Don't you?
Very much so. Very much so. When Phil Kessel is not the leading scorer, but had 2, I believe he had 2 goals and 1 assist in the last 4 games. That says a lot. Coach Cassidy's always said he's looking for secondary scoring, and that would include Kessel and his line. But the top 6 have been, for the older people, Claude Rains, who played the Invisible Man.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty surprising. And yes,
shocking. It's actually shocking, yet it's not surprising. I mean, there's so much talent in the top 6 forwards on this team, and for them to be nowhere to be found in games that if they were there, they pretty much could win. And they maybe not win the Ranger game, but they win the Devil game, they win the Islander game, and they win the game in Arizona. But they didn't, and they basically took a collar. They were lucky to get out of there with 2 points out of the last 4 games.
Well, I'm not sure if I totally agree with that. I think the Arizona game was an absolute stinker, but I think that they easily could have had a better outcome against New Jersey and also against the Islanders. My concern is 0 points from Jack Eichel, 0 points from Chandler Stevenson. I think that a lot has to do with continually line juggling, which Coach Cassidy for a while was forced to do because of health. But now health is basically almost run out of its shelf life as an excuse. They're down to basically Mark Stone and Zach Whitecloud on injured reserve. We're not going to get back to rumors and things like that. We've already discussed that. Coach Cassidy said we might see him after the All-Star break. Zach Whitecloud has been skating with the team and traveled with the team to the East Coast. We saw him. He looked pretty good. He competed at full speed in pretty stout drills at the practice that I witnessed at Madison Square Garden. So health is not going to be an excuse for much longer. I think that I don't know if it's morale. Morale is not the right word. I don't know what's going on that they've suddenly stopped being the Vegas Golden Knights. They're not playing with the intensity that we're used to. They're just not the same team that poured out of the gate, the first 15 games. Now, no, that pace couldn't have been kept up.
Sustained itself. Absolutely.
Yeah. And even the incredible road start, they're regressing back to, they're still a very good road team, but these last 4 games, I'm pretty concerned. I'm not going to lie. I think that they are missing fire, I think is maybe what I was mumbling my way through the last couple.
It's interesting, and we had this discussion on the way back into Manhattan from the Islander game, is the positive outlook that both Shea Theodore and William Carrier had post-game. Even though they lost, they both said that they think they feel like the team is doing the right thing, and this is something that they could pretty much step off after the All-Star break and continue.
Do you disagree?
I don't disagree, but if you remember Cassidy in the game after the Ranger game said that they needed to right the ship. He didn't want them going into a break on this particular run of bad luck, no scoring, no contribution from the top six. That continued in the Islander game. They wound up losing again in overtime. So the template that Cassidy was trying to get away from continued on the road trip that ended in the island. But the players seemed, and we only two players were made available after the Islander game. One being Theodore, who was a welcome sight back to the team, and you could see he made the power play a little bit more functionable, so to speak. And Carrier, who got one of his real dirty goals, as he always gets, provided some spark to the team. But they both had this positive outlook that they think that the team is playing well, just is running into a little bit of bad luck as far as pucks going in off of them into their net, and their pucks not finding the back of the net. Do I agree? I just find it interesting that the coach had a different theory of what needed to be done as opposed to what the players did after the Islander game.
Well, let me take it sort of slice by slice. I conditionally agree with what Shea Theodore and Will Carrier said if you specifically put it into the context of how they played in the last couple games at home, specifically the Detroit game. There were a number of games in that 7-game homestand where they played like shit and they didn't deserve the outcome. They didn't deserve to win, and they got the outcome that they exactly deserved. So if you use the last, most of that homestand, which was not successful at 3 and 4 or whatever it was, as far as the quality of hockey that they played on the East Coast swing, I think it was better. I think that the addition of Shea Theodore on the ice in the room, and same for Will Carrier on the ice in the room, made a noticeable influence on the mentality of the Golden Knights. They seem to be playing freer. Again, finishing is an issue. There have been 5 goals in the last 3 or 4 games that have gone into the Golden Knights net off of a Golden Knight that would have potentially changed the outcome of some of those games. So I think that I agree. I guess the phrase is agree in principle with what they're saying. I think that they played better. I think they could have easily won the Islander game, and they might have deserved to win the New Jersey game. So, but to say trending the right way, I don't know just yet.
Well, that's what the players said.
I think that I hope that this 5 or 6 or 7 days that they have off, with the exception of Logan Thompson, Coach Cassidy, and the newly anointed All-Star Chandler Stevenson, I hope that they all went away from the rink, didn't look at their phones, didn't watch social media, and completely sort of cleansed themselves of a pretty bad stretch of hockey for the Golden Knights. 2-6-2 in their last 10 games. That's they gave away most of the points, or gave back most of the points that they built up in the first 15 or 18 games this year. And, they're in a dogfight right now.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine where they would be if they didn't have that incredible run to start the season?
They'd probably be 5th in the division.
They'd be out of a playoff picture.
They'd be well out of a playoff spot.
And they're not comfortably in a playoff spot right now. I mean, they are technically, but keep in mind that last year at the All-Star break, this team was in first place and didn't make the playoffs. Now they're in second place, and they have literally 3 or 4 teams that are right on their tail, who have games in hands also. So this is we're in treacherous waters here, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I was, I've waffled, so to speak, in the beginning of the season. I said, I thought maybe they would be in trouble.
Hold on. We're not going to do change predictions till the end.
I'm not changing predictions. I'm just trying to say that this team is gone through. It's almost like a washing machine cycle. It starts off good, it spins good, and then all of a sudden, your machine's off, not balanced, and it's rattling all over the place. Well, right now, the Vegas Golden Knights are rattling like a washing machine that's not level on the ground. That's what I'm saying, and maybe I'll have a different prediction later in the episode about their playoff hopes.
Well, I think your point's well made about position at the All-Star break, but the situation is fairly significantly different if we went on who was on IR and how many people were on IR at last year's All-Star break versus this year's. The magnitude of the Mark Stone injury, I don't think can be sort of minimized. They are a very, very different team on the ice without him, and I assume in the room with him as the captain. Zach Whitecloud, to a limited degree, brings some stability to their D. They are now 5 of 6 of their regular defensemen, and that's starting to shape up. But they need to get out of their own heads and start to believe that they can win games without Mark Stone. Because as we know throughout the years, we're not going to know much about anything until we see him on the ice, either skating by himself or in a red non-contact jersey, so that we know that he's sort of in process towards making a return. I have a question for you. Do you think that they are overthinking things? And do you think that they're in their own heads too far and just aren't playing free? Or what are your thoughts on why this sudden precipitous slide from being an absolute lock, being a Stanley Cup contender, to you and I wondering what the hell's really going to go on and what might or might not happen down the road?
I'm simply going to use a well-known and often used hockey term. They're gripping their sticks really tight right now, and they're in their own heads that the pucks are not going in for them, and it could be dangerous. Not can be. I mean, we see what's going on. They feel like they can't score. They're not scoring. They're not getting any breaks. I mean, like you said, they should have won the Jersey game. The tying goal that was scored by Hamilton with like less than a minute or just over a minute to go, hit McNabb in the knee and
Yep.
changed directions and beat Logan Thompson. He gave up a goal early in the game, and then he gave up a goal late in the game.
But that first goal of the game, 4 minutes in, but banked off of McNabb and went over his shoulder,
right?
Like a pitching wedge, like a baby chip.
Exactly.
So you can't really blame LT for those.
Well, you would you say that, but when we talked to LT after the New Jersey game,
which is a whole nother topic that we probably shouldn't get into because we should let the guys shine in the All-Star game.
He was distraught on that game. He basically said he should have had both those saves, and he totally blamed himself for the team loss, which I thought he was being, I don't want to say over dramatic. I think he was being really hard on himself unnecessarily. And even Cassidy said post game that he thought Thompson played well, and you and I both thought he played well from our vantage point in the press box. He played well. He just got unlucky. Two pucks went in that totally changed directions on him. So, and
I think it's easy from the bird's eye view to look at Logan Thompson's statements after that game and say that he was hypercritical and he was really down on himself. But I think that we have to put some context in it. Goalies have different ways that they swallow wins and losses. Their processes are different. The Golden Knights have 2 significantly different personalities in goal. Logan Thompson, every time that we've had the chance to talk to him, and I think this was the first time that we've talked to him after a loss all year, is hypercritical, self-doubt, unhappy with his play, commends his teammates, really, really owns it and wears it. And that's his process. Aiden Hill, on the other hand, after that horrible mishandled goal that happened about 10 or 15 games ago behind the net, when we asked him about it after the game, he said, listen, you just have to laugh it off and make the next save. His process, their processes are completely different. And I think Sean Burke, the goalie whisperer, probably understands that he has to handle and massage the egos of the 2 goaltenders very differently. I agree with Coach Cassidy. The New Jersey game was not one bit on Logan Thompson. Has he had a couple of shaky games? Yes. Is he down from that incredible start that he had? Yes. Was it reasonable to expect that start that he had to continue through his entire 80-game season? Absolutely not. He's still posting plus 910 save percentage, though it's only 912 or 913. He's still, his goals against is still under 3. He's still in the top half of the league. He just isn't, he's not lighting it up like Shesterkin lit it up last year, or like the kid in Boston is lighting it up this year.
Well, the kid in Boston also has got a pretty good offense in front of him too.
Exactly, which the Golden Knights, in theory, should have. I mean, Logan Thompson should have, if he had a goals against average of exactly 2. Okay, if Logan Thompson
that's asking a lot. That's an incredible goals against average too.
How about this? If Logan Thompson lets in 2.5 goals a game,
that's more reasonable.
Then his win-loss record should be 700 plus, because the Golden Knights, as constructed, should score more than 3 goals a game,
or at least 3 goals a game.
At least 3 goals a game, almost every night. And if you look at the games that they've lost, especially recently, they haven't got a sniff of 3 games, of 3 goals rather.
They haven't got over 2.
So the fact is that he can only do so much. And I think that a lot more of this is on the team in front of him, right? The defensive system, and we talked about this when we first talked about Coach Cassidy, is designed to minimize the high danger shots. They're giving up a lot of shots, but they still aren't giving up a ton of prime real estate inside that home plate that goes from the crease to the dots to the top of the circle. They're not giving up a ton of those chances. There have been times where Coach Cassidy has said, we needed our goalies to make a save, and they haven't. And you don't have to read between the lines of what he was saying. Those were bad goals. But as a whole, this is not about goaltending. This is about what's going on in front of them. I firmly believe that this team needs
scoring,
a cleanse.
Like an acid wash, like when you
no, like a colonic. I think they're a little backed up. You know what I'm saying, Joe? X-lax, they're a little back. I think they're a little constipated on offense. And I'm worried, because there has been a point that Coach Cassidy has made repetitively where he wants them to take what's given to them. If the teams are standing up at the blue line and defending them that way, he wants them to chip the puck behind them and go and retrieve the puck. And that is not how the Misfits are made up. And that is not primarily how the top line, when it's Stone and Eichel and whoever they put on the wing, they prefer to make the play, to make the extra pass, and to finesse their way in. Whereas the third and the fourth line, especially the new look third and fourth line, if it's not given to them, they chip it in, they send Carrier in after it, or they send Kolasar in after it, and they make plays from the back behind the goal line out instead of from the blue line in. And I think that the first 2 lines tendency to not want to chip the puck in.
No, they want to make fancy plays.
Okay, but that really hurts them, because when they make a turnover at the offensive blue line
it's going back the other way real quick.
Going back the other way immediately as an odd man
real
rush.
Quick, exactly.
Immediately, post haste, quickly. And I think that, I don't know that that's coaching. I mean, the Misfits have been together for 5 years. That's the tendency. Cassidy recognizes that that's an issue, and I'm sure is harping on, if we don't have it, we have to chip it. We have to create offense in another way. But they're pretty fucking stubborn, Joe. How many times just in the last 3 games where you and I were in the press box in Jersey, in the Garden, and on the island, were we screaming about the extra pass? There's still odd man rushes where they're not even getting a shot on net. They're not forcing the other team into difficult enough decisions in their own defensive zone, the other team's defensive zone.
I will say this. I'm not really sure which power play. There were a couple of power plays back in the 3 games in New York where they actually looked it looked decent.
Better.
It looked okay. Maybe better. That's a better equation to say. It looked better than it has been. But again, I don't believe they scored a power play goal in all 3 games in the New York area.
Nope.
No, not
Nope.
one power play goal. I think there was one or two power plays where, again, that they moved the puck around with Shea Theater back on the point. The puck's moving around, but they're just not getting any traffic in front of the goaltenders, and that's the key to the power play is getting people in front of the net. You like guys at this level of hockey, if a goaltender can see the shot, he's stopping it. And Logan Thompson's a prime example. The two goals that he gave up to New Jersey in regulation time were goals that fluke. They hit, they bounced, they floated over his shoulder, and then he got beat by a blistering slap shot by Dougie Hamilton in overtime. Um, it just when the offense was going, the goaltending was going, and they reeled off a whole bunch of wins out of the gate. Now the goaltending has come back to where I predicted it would be when we first talked about this team before opening night, and their offense has gone absent. It's just
Yeah, like Gil Carton absent.
Eichel's been silent. Marchessault's been quiet. Riley Smith has been quiet. Carlson had one or two goals here and there, but basically the top six forwards, even Stevenson has been quiet, who's the leading scorer on the team. He's been quiet also. I mean,
Here's today's random stat. Chandler Stevenson's leading the Golden Knights with 44 points, right? Connor McDavid has 90 points.
You're comparing Samson to Goliath.
Well, Chandler Stevenson plays on the better team. Chandler, I'll tell you this: Connor McDavid hasn't gone 5 games without a point.
Connor McDavid's in his own world.
It's just an unusual stat that there's that much of a difference.
You're being unfair to Chandler Stevenson by comparing his stats to.
It wasn't meant to be unfair. It was just putting out there that there's an incredible difference between the top scorer in the league.
What you're missing here, Eddie, is Chandler Stevenson is not supposed to be the top point scorer for the Vegas Golden Knights. There's 3 or 4 other guys that are supposed to be scoring more than him.
I'm not missing that. I'm not missing that at all, Joe. I was just making a point. Chandler Stevenson
when he came over, he had trouble cracking the Washington lineup.
Listen, if Chandler Stevenson is leading the team in points at the end of this year, they won't be in the playoffs. I guarantee that.
Oh, you're probably right about that.
Right? If Chandler Stevenson, and you can go ahead and carve this one into granite. If Chandler Stevenson is the leading scorer for the Golden Knights at the end of the season, they will not be in the playoffs. I think that Chandler Stevenson is a deserving All-Star, even though he has slowed down a bit the last few games as the rest of the offense is. He's the best trade. He may go down as the best trade the Golden Knights make in the first 20 years of their existence.
It wasn't even
Chandler
a trade.
Stevenson
a draft pick.
for a fifth round draft pick.
But the problem is when your leading scorer is playing on your third line, that's a problem. That's the problem right there.
That is a problem. And
I love Chandler Stevens' game.
I love everything about his game, and I'd like to see him win the fastest skater this weekend because we know he can go.
Well, he's got little turbo jets in the back of his skate. And Cassidy made a comment after the Islander game when he was asked about the chemistry between Kessel, Stevenson, and Waugh, and Cassidy was quick to say, and it was a little bit of a jab. He said, "Well, they're forcing Kessel to keep up." The speed of both of those guys are forcing Kessler to kind of get on his horse, or else he's going to be left in the dust.
I have never thought that having Stevenson on the wing is a good idea. I don't think that. Remember how Coach Cassidy liked to think about pairs, having a pair on each line. Eichel and Stevenson are not a good pair together because it forces Stevenson to the wing, which is not his preferred position. Eichel and Stone, to me, are a much better combination with, pick the wing that you want to put on there. I think that it's unfortunate that the chemistry isn't there with Eichel and Stevenson, but I don't think it's a good fit, and I've never thought it's a good fit. And I hope that the way the new third line is sort of being constructed right now, that It will give them some more balance. Having Chandler Stevenson as 3C, I think is I don't want to say it's a good place for him, but I think it's maybe a better place for the team. I think that that has the potential. If that line can continue to grow and we continue to see more of the Phil Kessel that we've expected, that we've seen for the last couple of days, that up and down balance, I think, can go a long way to improving the Golden Knights' overall offense.
So do you think keeping Kessel with Stevenson and War is a good thing then, right?
Well, the proof's in the pudding. They were the only people that scored while we were over there.
Pretty much.
So, I mean, if you take the tiny sample size of 2 games, you would agree it was the best Phil Kessel we've seen all season, wouldn't you?
He looked engaged.
He looked engaged. We saw him in the defensive zone. We saw him more responsible on the wall.
Right.
We saw all of the things in Phil Kessel that
we expected from day one when he got here,
and that Coach Cassidy has been critical of him about. So I'm going to say if we take the limited sample size of 2 games, then I think that line probably stays together. I mean, listen, Phil can score. He can score. Phil can pass the puck, right? When Phil is engaged in the game, he makes that third line something that coaches are going to have to, I guess, deal with. And so I say they keep it for a while.
Yeah, and the speed of both Stevenson and War kind of help Kessel, who can kind of find some empty open ice because they're obviously driving the defenseman back further into the zone with their speed, and Kessel comes in as the weak forward coming in late into the zone. He's got some open space, and he's got a heck of a shot, Kessel.
It allows him not to have to go to the hard areas of the ice,
which he doesn't like,
and which is not his. We'll just say it's not his preference.
Right. He's the Iron Man for a reason. We won't go any further than that.
Right. So, yes, I say that. I think that line needs some more time. You know, they come back next week. They got the Father's trip, which should be a really good thing for them, to Nashville and Minnesota, playing in front of their dads and stuff like that. I say give it a twirl. I think that Brett Howden coming back help them a little bit. I mean, they're getting their health wise. Howden gives them a serviceable 4C with Carrier. You know, I'm not happy with how they played. I think that there's a lot of teachable stuff that they haven't quite grasped yet, and they're still making mistakes that I'm surprised they're making this far into the season. But I'm not abandoning ship on this club in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I think that there is a lot of room for improvement, but just the talent on the roster and just the skill that those guys have. I think that this is an unusually long period of adversity for them, but I wholly expect that with a week off and being away from the rink, that they are going to come back next week rejuvenated and recharged and ready to get back into the groove of being the Golden Knights team that we expect them to be.
And you do realize that they've lost 3 games to their 2 former coaches, which is not good.
There's a whole bunch of weird statistics about,
Well, here's another weird statistic, and I hate to bring this up because it's going to make you look. You thought you wanted to bet anyone a pizza that don't be rolling your head there. You were so convinced that DeBoer would get a Bronx cheer back when he returned to T-Mobile, and he got a very warm welcome. And would you like to?
He didn't get booed. Okay,
he didn't.
I was wrong. He didn't get booed, and my excuse for that is I listened to all the jerk offs in the social media groups who are calling for his death. So yeah, not only did he get a nice round of applause, his team kicked the Golden Knights' ass up and down the rink for 60 minutes.
Not only did, and he was very grateful. He was taken back a little bit by the reception he got, and he said it was done well. It was from a class organization, and
Because he agreed with me. He thought he was getting booed, Joe.
You know what? You know what? It was honestly, Ed. It was touching. You never know when you leave, but I thought it was really classy to include Steve and I both at the same time. I thought the reception from the fans was great, and I never expected it different. You know, I think they've been great from day one. So classy on their part, and appreciated by us.
no, I don't think he did that.
Oh,
You really,
bullshit.
you thought he was going to get booed?
He
Yeah.
was happy because he didn't get booed because he thought he was going to get smashed. You don't think so?
No, I don't think. I didn't think he was going to get booed. I think the fans of T-Mobile, they have class. Okay, maybe they were happy. They cheered him because they're happy he's gone. You
I don't know.
can look at it that way, right?
I don't know how you measure that statistic.
Well, I was just going to
Okay.
say, good. We didn't like him when he got here, and we like him now that he's gone. So maybe that was the reason for the warm welcome. I don't know.
Okay. So we've spent the first bunch of time talking about the unhappiness that we've been feeling with the Golden Knights and how they've been playing and things like that. You know what's coming up in about 31 days, 32 days?
Trade deadline.
The trade deadline.
How did I get that right?
I don't know. You're usually that much time in advance stumps a guy like you.
Uh,
But anyway, so the trade deadline, March the 3rd, the Golden Knights have $17.57 of cap space available.
not even enough to buy a beer at T-Mobile.
Correct. That's very true. But yesterday, the big news in the NHL
I
is
know.
the first major trade chip in this year's trade deadline fell. Bo Horvat was traded to the New York Islanders for Beauvillier, one other guy, and a conditional first-round pick. You're not going to believe this, Golden Knights fans, but we didn't get Bo Horvat. Contrary to the clickbait websites who say that we're in on every single free agent, every shiny penny, or whatever the hell that is. But that's pretty significant. They traded a 30-goal scorer and their captain for a couple of guys that are,
They were going to lose him anyway.
Yeah, I mean, but he allegedly turned down 8x8, $64 million to stay in Vancouver. To go to a team, the New York Islanders, that I think you would say are maybe 50-50 to make the playoff.
It's okay. Go there and he'll become a free agent. If the Golden Knights even made a pass at Horvat, they couldn't, because once they get him, what are they going to do at the end of the season? They're not going to
take a rental. They're not going to give up assets.
Right.
And what rental that they know they can't.
What would they have to give up? They would have to give up one of their first rounders. They would have to give up a prospect and another player.
Yeah.
And what, to lose him come April?
How about this?
How about this?
So the Islanders make the trade, and it doesn't look like, and they go in the tank for the next 2 or 3 weeks. What do you think the chances are the Islanders flip Horvat when they realize they're not going to make the playoffs? This seems to me like an all-in move for Lou Lamoriello. Don't you think?
So you're saying that if it looks like they're not going to make the playoffs, they're going to move him at the trade deadline?
They might, yeah, because if they're not a playoff team, why not flip them for a whole bunch of assets to a contender?
Well, I'm not sure of this, but I'm sure he's got some sort of no trade clause in his contract. He's a veteran, so he may have a limited. Or if he has a trade clause, it may be a limited trade clause. So the Islanders might have their hands tied.
Well, I wouldn't suspect that the no trade clause would include Stanley Cup contending teams. Would you? It would probably include Arizona, Anaheim, Montreal, Columbus, probably the Red Wings, right? So I think it's interesting that they moved him this early.
Yes, that's interesting. Also,
I think that's the interesting part. We're 34 days or something like that away from the trade deadline, and he was a pretty big chip on the board. And I don't see his value going down in the next month, right?
No, but I think you make a valid point here. I think Lou Lamoriello wanted him this early to have the option to remove him
To
at the
flip him.
trade deadline. Because once the trade deadline passes, Lou's going to lose him for nothing. Lou
If he
takes him
doesn't,
now.
if he doesn't resign him.
Right. Lou takes him now. If the team makes a little bit of a run, Lou's got him for the playoffs. If it looks like he's not going to make the playoffs, Lou has the ability, based upon whatever contract Horvat has, as far as moving him, Lou can move him for, as you said, for assets. So it's a good. Lou Lamoriello is a smart hockey guy, and I think he realized, you know what? If I play this hand now, I have outs. If I play this hand at the trade deadline, I have no outs. I have him until the end of the season, and that's all I'm going to have him for, unless I can re-sign him. I'm not sure what the cap space situation is on the island, but I'm sure they probably have room to re-sign him. But would he want to sign there? That's the question.
I don't have the answer. But let's
I
talk
think
about,
I think Horvat. I think as an unrestricted free agent, Horvat's going to test the waters.
let's talk about the needs, if you think there are any, the Golden Knights, and what sort of, you see any players out there that you like? That, first of all, what do you, if you were Kelly McCrimmon and you were thinking, I might need to make a trade or two at the deadline,
With what?
what are you trading for?
I don't think they have any. They have no flexibility. They're butt up against, unless Stone goes on long time LTIR and is not going to be available until the playoffs, and then obviously there's no cap space on the playoffs. So are they willing to move Stone to LTIR to basically until the rest of the season and then bring him back for the playoffs? Then the Knights could make a move. But if they make the move, they're just going to be renting a player because they're not going to be able to keep Stone for next season. And the player, which I'm sure is going to come with somewhat of a price tag, $4 or $5 million player, they're not going to be able to fit him in. So I don't know if the Knights, the Knights were set to go forward from training camp with the team they had. I've said this. George McPhee has said this. George McPhee believes that this was the best team the Golden Knights have fielded in 6 years, healthy. And I still believe that's the case. They are the best. They are the best team in the 6 years that the Vegas Golden Knights have been in existence. This was the best team on paper. Unfortunately, injuries again have crept up on this team like they did last year, and now we're dealing with missing key players in the lineup and not scoring goals. So I don't know if they have any flexibility come trade deadline.
Okay, so your prediction is they stand pat?
It's all based upon Mark Stone, whether they stand pat or not.
Okay, so if Stone's healthy, they stand pat.
If Stone's healthy, they stand pat. Yes, they're gonna go to war.
So they're not going to chase any shiny object.
No, they can't. We're chasing with what money? The $17.50 that they have left over.
Well, I'll give you a couple of players that are out there that I think that could help them.
You got to, not only can you give me the players, you need to tell me how they fit them in.
Okay,
Okay.
I can do that.
Go right ahead.
I'll just give you one. Tyler Bertuzzi, Todd's his uncle. Tyler Bertuzzi of the Red Wings, having a bit of a down year after 68 or 70 points last year, broke both of his hands this year, which is fluky enough to begin with.
In a fight?
He's a top 6, top 9 forward who has a nose for the net. He's on an expiring deal, right? But he's a goal scorer, and he's got some grit to him. He could probably be had for a Howden type, a prospect, and a second and a third, with Detroit retaining some salary.
It sounds like a lot to give up for an aging player.
Aging, he's 27.
Yeah, he's what's the average age of a hockey player? 23, 24?
You think 27? Would you rather them go after somebody like Ryan O'Reilly?
Well, he's already said he doesn't want to leave St. Louis.
Well, that's what he said.
I'm gonna volley a player your way that I think comes a lot cheaper, has just as much grit.
Okay.
How about Max Domi?
I said Max Domi 4 or 5 episodes ago. I like Max Domi.
I know. Yeah, but
he's in Chicago, so he automatically needs a change of scenery.
Okay, but we're talking now about something that the Vegas Golden Knights could possibly somehow fit into their current roster. And Max Domi can do that. He gives them what they're looking for. If they're looking for grit, if they're looking for someone like a Tkachuk kind of player to get in your face, to get in front of the net, to cause havoc on the ice, okay, Max Domi is the guy, and he comes a lot cheaper.
The big difference is Bertuzzi's a significantly better scorer. Domi's not a second line.
No, he's not. He's not. But
where Bertuzzi is.
But the point is, if the top two lines in the Vegas Golden Knights come back to reality, Bertuzzi doesn't fit where a Max Domi would fit on a third.
You don't think he fits on a line with Chandler Stevenson and Phil Kessel and pushes Waugh back to 4?
He could, but Max Domi can do the same thing for a lot cheaper.
What about James Van Riemsdyk?
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility too. I don't, but his asking price is going to be.
His Philadelphia would have to eat a boatload of salary
exactly
to get that sort of thing.
And I don't know if Philadelphia is willing to unload Van Riemsdyk. So I think Max, if there's anything that the Vegas Golden Knights do that's affordable and possibly they can fit in, I think Max Domi is the player.
I think it's definitely a forward. I think that the impression that Daniil Miramanov made and that Braden Pahal made and that Caden Gorzak is making and has made.
They're pretty much set in the back end.
I think that I think the organization is comfortable enough having those 3 as the first 3 call-ups.
Right. The future is good on the blue line.
I mean, I like that. And I like, especially, I like Miramanov because Miramanov drives offense.
Well, he was a forward initially, right?
Correct.
So
I think that, I've liked them since the get. I still think that there's a chance that if either of the bottom 6 have a prolonged, difficult stretch, without injury, that we may very well see Miramanov
as a forward.
Yeah.
They could do.
No, not as a forward. Pushing out Whitecloud or Hague.
Well, he's not pushing out Whitecloud. I don't think if anyone gets pushed out of the back end, it'll be Hague. He's been struggling lately too.
So,
but you can also dress Miramanov as a 7th defenseman and use him as a forward too.
Yep.
So you have that option also if you want to sit Phil Kessel.
So your change, we don't want to get into that. We'll go an hour. So your prediction at trade deadline is if Mark Stone is healthy, they stand pat.
Yes. If Mark Stone's not healthy, they'll make a move, and any of the names you have volleyed out, including mine of Max Domi, is probably the 2 or 3 players that you may see in a Vegas Golden Knight uniform if Mark Stone is not able to go.
My prediction is that regardless of Mark Stone's health, they're going to make a move. It won't be the gigantic splash, shiniest shiny penny available out there, but they will make a move to bolster their goal scoring middle, I guess you call it middle 6 type forward. That's the area that they're going to try to improve on. And we may see another prospect go as well as
wow. We've given away so many prospects. So many
we have,
picks.
but you can't get nothing for nothing.
Chasing that little silver bowl.
Well, big silver bowl. But anyway. That's good. It's going to be interesting. I kind of like this time of season. There's so much to speculate and wonder about, and we're never going to know exactly what's going on in the minds of the higher ups until they pull the trigger or don't. But I think one of my favorite days of the year is to get up early and turn on the NHL network and watch both the NHL network and TSN's coverage of the trade deadline, because that's when they bring their smartest people that they have and they all roundtable it out. I would like to offer you now the opportunity to change your prediction for the outcome of the Golden Knights season. In the beginning, you said 2nd or 3rd and maybe struggling to get into the playoffs. And then we both sort of rotated our position to they're a lock to make the playoffs and they could be contenders for the Cup. With this 29-18-4 and a point out of first place, would you like to change your prediction for the outcome of the Golden Knights regular season?
No. 2nd, 3rd, or a wild card. That's what I'm going to stick with that.
Okay, then who's going to win the division?
Seattle
Really?
or LA.
You
I
think
mean,
Seattle's for real?
I keep on thinking they're not, but they just keep on winning. I mean, and LA, even though they have a goal differential of -6, I think they've given up 6 more goals than they've scored, but they're hanging around. Edmonton's right behind. Calgary's right behind. Calgary's playing better. Um, it's not going to be easy for the Vegas Golden Knights. I think they make the playoffs. I think they make the playoffs either in second, third, or if things get really bad, possibly a wild card. But it's all going to depend upon the top 6 forwards of this team finding the back of the net. You can't rely on Carrier, and you cannot rely on the third line to be the guys who are putting pucks in the net. You need to get production from the misfit line if they put them back together. You need to get production from Eichel. It's just Carter's been okay up there on the front line. He's been okay on the power play. But he's a first year guy. He's not supposed to be playing in the top 6. He's in the top 6 and I'm not saying this in a bad way about Carter because I love how he plays, but he's there by default because of the injuries and other stuff. But he's proven that he can play at that
Up and
level.
down.
Yeah, he
Up
can
and
play
down the
anywhere.
lineup.
Exactly. He's a valuable asset to the Vegas Golden Knights, but he's not supposed to be on the first line.
I'm going to slightly alter my prediction. I think
What was your initial prediction?
My initial prediction was that they're going to win their division and be a serious contender for the cup.
Okay.
Now I'm going to say I still believe that they're going to win the Western Division.
Pacific, you mean?
I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, the Pacific Division. I'm not as confident on a deep playoff run unless Mark Stone is healthy.
Okay.
Without Mark Stone, they could easily be 1 and out, or
not even in. Is it possible they don't make the playoffs?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that the mistakes are too easily corrected, and I think that they're going to go on. They're going to get healthier, and they're going to go on a decent run and win the division. I don't think there's a chance they don't make the playoffs, but I'm not as confident about them making a deep run in the West as I was prior to that.
I want to pose a question to you though. If they don't, I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. One is they don't make the playoffs, and the next one is they make the playoffs, but they're out quickly in round 1. Is anyone's job from the coach on up in jeopardy?
Coach on up. Cassidy's job's not in jeopardy.
Okay. Is anyone above him job in jeopardy?
Yes.
And that would be both. Okay.
Both. I think that they were giving, to use the exact military phrase, they were given their marching orders. And they've had 3 coaches, and they've had ample opportunity to collect shiny objects and build rosters and do all the things that they've done. And if they don't succeed in 6 years and they don't make the playoffs for 2 years in a row, I think that will be the impetus that relieves Kelly McCrimmon and possibly George McPhee of their position. I don't see Mr. Foley being a guy that will stand pat with a losing hand. And
this is the year where he said it would all come.
Right. So I think it would be a horrifically bad decision if they were to relieve Bruce Cassidy after one year. It just makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, you don't need a coach's carousel here. Okay.
No. It's already, there's already a fairly unpleasing look at how they've treated some people since the beginning of the organization. This would make it a shit show if they did something, in my opinion, as stupid as that. I do think that you have to have further scrutiny of upper management's decisions, especially when it comes to trades, moving prospects, the construction of the roster, etc. I think that all of that is in play if they don't make the playoffs, and potentially if they go 1 and out. That they may have, their shelf life may have expired if they don't get at least through to the second round and compete. if they get blitzed, right, by a team that shouldn't blitz them, I think that there is reasonable enough cause to make changes in upper management to get a new overall philosophy in place for the Golden Knights. I think it's very fair, and I think it's on the table. And I think that I also think, and this probably is not a huge, breakthrough thought. I think that they both know it. I think that Foley's probably told them, listen, boys, shit or get off the pot time. What do you think?
I think McPhee might have a little bit more juice to stay around. I think if a head's going to roll, if things just don't go right this season, I think McCrimmon might be in trouble. I don't think McPhee's in trouble. I think McCrimmon is going to. I'm not saying that he should be. I'm just saying that if the team fails to, remember now they've had 3 different coaches, 3 different styles, and other than the first year with Gallant, they've pretty much had the same results all the time, and it's just not able to finish, not get deep, but not able to finish. So who knows? I mean, I don't like to see anyone lose their job. I think Kelly McCrimmon and George McPhee are brilliant hockey guys. I think Cassidy's a brilliant coach. I thought McPhee did a great job in the expansion draft. He pretty much constructed a team that shocked the whole entire world, hockey world anyway. I think Gallant did an excellent job. I think the board did an excellent job, but it just didn't work out. And I think Cassidy's doing an excellent job. But when you're bogged down with injuries and you can't get pucks to the back of the net, somebody's going to lose a job.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to say rightfully so, but it should be expected if they don't achieve the goals put forth by the owner. Okay, we're going to start a new segment. We're going to do this every week because we have the ability to get this information from players and coaches. We're going to call this Chirp of the Week. For those of you who don't know what chirping is in the context of the NHL, it's basically wise-assing and ball busting and picking on other people and generally being pretty funny about it if you're really good at it. The Golden Knights have been blessed in their brief history with some outstanding chirpers. Ryan Reeves comes to mind. Jonathan Marchessault, certainly the most vocal member of the current Golden Knights. Chirping is just a funny ball-busting thing. Sometimes your humble vloggers here, Joe and I, get an opportunity to hear some pretty funny stuff. And this actually happened a couple of weeks ago. We were riding down in the elevator after the game, after a disappointing loss, in fact, to the Detroit Red Wings. And that elevator ride is usually filled with all sorts of unique people. It's Golden Knights staff, it's coaches, it's visiting scouts, it's executives for other teams. It's a merry band of hockey people. So we are at the Red Wings game, and it was a disappointing 3-1 loss to a team that they probably shouldn't have beaten. And we were on the elevator ride down, and one of the people on the elevator was complaining about the Golden Knights and the way they were playing. And he suggested that things were so bad that we should call up all the Silver Knights and give them a chance to play. Now, this is ridiculous. We all know that. But from the back of the elevator, behind where Joe and I were standing, so we can't exactly be sure who said it, somebody piped up with the following. Take it easy over there, ankle biter. You'll be back on the bandwagon in a couple of weeks. Now, that's some funny shit. Because, first of all, it was probably poor judgment to get on an elevator full of team executives and coaches and other media people and start bad-mouthing the home team on the home team's elevator. But the fact that it struck a chord so strenuously that it garnered a response so sharp and critical from someone else on the elevator. Basically, what I'm trying to say to you is everybody on the elevator was laughing at the guy who made the wisecrack.
And actually, I think he left something out. I think he said you'll be back on the bandwagon licking the boots. I think he added that into it. That not only will you be back, but you'll be licking the boots. In other words, sucking up to the team
in
when
a
they get
couple of
back.
weeks.
Yeah, I think he left that out, but it was pretty sharp, and I turned and looked, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Everybody, because it came from the very back of the elevator. And I apologize that this segment didn't go as smoothly as we had hoped, but we're going to try it because chirping is really one of the essential, really funny parts of NHL life for the players, for the
We'll
coaches.
find some chirps. We'll find some chirps.
I mean, shit talking is an art form, and the players, some of them are fantastic at it. And some of the fans are really good at it, so good at it that the players actually take note of the chirps. And we're going to share a little bit of behind the scenes fun with access that we have to the players. We're going to go in the locker room after practice, and we're going to ask guys like Jonathan March or so, what's the best chirp you've ever laid on somebody, or the best chirp you've ever heard? And we're going to share a little bit of fun. We're going to see if maybe we can get some video of these guys chirping a little bit, just a little something to light the mood after episode 49, which was a bit of a downer, and rightfully so, because the Golden Knights are struggling. This is the point of the episode where I try to make Joe shake his head and turn as red as the Hockey Nights in Vegas logo by telling him about the incredible services offered at Ageless Forever, my friend Dr. John Pierce's practice. Now, I haven't really given you an update about what's going on with my journey in health. So we're going to give Joe a couple minutes off, and we're going to cut all the jokes out, and I'm going to tell you the real deal that's been happening. So I started on a weight loss journey 4 months ago, and I had pledged to stay off of Coke, not cocaine, Coca-Cola, and try to eat better and do better for myself. And here's the update for 4 months in. I've lost 21 and a half pounds in 16 weeks. While we were in New York last week, I walked 3.5 miles around Manhattan. And I know for a lot of you, that's going to be like, oh yeah, fat boy, that's really not that impressive. But for me, 3.5 miles is probably farther than I've walked in a day in maybe 15 or 20 years. How did I do it, you ask? Well, the truth is that I'm on a medically supervised prescription drug that you may have heard about in the news. Its commercial name is Wegovy or Ozempic or stuff like that, but it's really called semaglutide, and it is a peptide. And while its primary use was created for type 2 diabetes, they have found that its off-brand use is that it is an incredibly effective weight loss drug. And I am here to tell you that since I have begun taking semaglutide, one small injection a week, it has been incredible for me. The drug basically makes you feel full. It doesn't have, or it hasn't had for me, any other side effects other than I'm really not that hungry anymore. I eat one decent meal a day, a lot of times not as good as I probably should. I've fallen off the wagon a couple of times with my pledge to myself to stop drinking soda. But here's the real deal. This semaglutide works. If I can lose a pound or a pound and a half a week for the next year, that will put me down almost 80 pounds. Now, a lot of you are saying, oh my God, there must be these terrible side effects. Well, I assume that because it's a medication, there are some side effects, but I haven't had any. I haven't been nauseous. I haven't been anything other than not hungry. And the amount of food that I can take in a meal has dramatically decreased. We'll ask Joe in the next episode how much pizza we used to eat when we would go out together. Now, if I eat 2 or 3 slices, I'm full. Everything that I consume now, I consume in smaller portions. And the reason that I consume in smaller portions is because I'm just not hungry. This drug makes you feel full, and it makes you feel full faster. And the less calories you take in, the easier it is to lose weight. So that's real truth, folks. www.agelessforever.net. Dr. John Pierce has been a dear friend of mine for over 30 years. If you're struggling with your weight, if you've tried diets and you've gone way up in weight and lost a bunch of weight and then gone back up, and you've struggled with the psychological effects of this, I guess they call it yo-yo dieting or something like that, this is the fix. I tried all that stuff. I tried keto. I tried low carb. I tried Atkins. I tried all that happy horse shit. And while I was effective at losing weight, I was never able to keep the weight off. This is an absolute game changer. And if you talk to just edit this part out, Tom. If you contact Dr. Pierce at www.agelessforever.net and you tell him you want to come in, the first consultation is on us being Joe and I, the guys at Hockey Nights in Vegas. Dr. John Pierce will give you your initial consultation for free. Tell him the truth. Tell him you struggle with your weight. Men, women, it's even approved for children. If you're struggling, I believe in my heart of hearts that this is the answer. I'm sticking to it. I'm down 21 pounds in 4 months without really being as strict on my diet as I should be, without exercising as much as I should, simply by the fact that I'm not hungry. I'm not craving food. I'm not craving soda or sweets or carbs or bread or pasta or anything like that. I eat every day because I have to. I don't eat for the sake of eating anymore. I wholly 100% endorse semaglutide as a weight loss drug and having the program administered by Dr. John Pierce at www.agelessforever.net. Look him up online, fill out the form, go in and talk to him, tell him the truth, get the blood work, get on the program, and I think that you will find the results are so incredibly good that you'll want to refer it to your friends, just like I'm referring you now. So that's the end of the truth session for today. 21 pounds down, 16 weeks. There's still a lot to go, but the biggest thing is that I know that I can get there, and I know that I am going to get there, and I know that being and having this whole process supervised by the people at Ageless Forever, my friend Dr. Pierce's practice, it's going to make this the easiest and safest way for me to lose the weight and keep the weight off for the rest of my life. So now back to the fun and shenanigans. Episode 49, like all others, is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor, Anthony Curtis's Las Vegas Advisor. www.lasvegasadvisor.com is the place to go for everything you need to know about Las Vegas. If you want a restaurant recommendation, go to the Las Vegas Advisor. If you want to know where the loosest machines in the city are, go to the Las Vegas Advisor. Show tips, Las Vegas Advisor. You name it, if it's about Vegas, you want to go to the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com. We also have a standing offer to our subscribers and our viewers. We still have a few more viewers we need to turn into subscribers. The 200th subscriber to Hockey Nights in Vegas is going to win a pregame dinner with Joe and I at our very favorite restaurant in town, the Roma Restaurant and Deli on West Spring Mountain Road here in Las Vegas. It's a fantastic Italian meal. You and I guess you could probably bring a guest because nobody really goes to the game by themselves. We'll have the opportunity to hang out and chirp and shoot the shit with Joe and I before a Vegas Golden Knights home game. So if you're a first-time viewer or a viewer and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button in the bottom. We'll know you did it. We'll know who number 200 is, and we will absolutely take you out for a fantastic pregame dinner. Joe, that's going to wrap up episode 49. We're going to come up with something very special for the 50th episode next week. I have no idea what it's going to be, but Joe and I have a few days to brainstorm about it since it's All-Star Weekend. We want to thank everybody for viewing in the past, especially everybody who viewed and enjoyed our interview with Paul Cotter in the previous episode. It did really well, and we really appreciate everybody's feedback and want to thank Paul again for taking a few minutes of his time to have a couple of laughs with a couple of guys. So that's it, Joe. 49 is a wrap. Do you have anything you'd like to close with, or are we just going to send it out of here?
Let they see some goals from the top six forwards. That's for sure.
Well, right now, I'm just hoping that they aren't getting Montezuma's revenge in Mexico.
Is that where they are?
Well, they pretty much go everywhere. We know a couple are at Disneyland. We know others are on vacation. I hope that the Vegas Golden Knights have a healthy, calm, relaxing, fun week off, and that when we get back to hockey next week, that they have a chip on their shoulder and they're eager to prove to the great fans here in Las Vegas that they really are a great hockey club, because we know that they are. We just need a little bit more out of them. So that's it, folks. Thanks as always. We'll see you again next week.